All right, beautiful people. Let's call this episode, oh my gosh, I don't even know. I think it's episode 67. It's been a little bit of a while since I sat down and recorded one of these. First one of 2026, and I am very, very excited to be back. Today, we are talking all about the Winter 50K. Now, this has been the subject of a lot of the recent podcasts. But I think that's appropriate given as I am the athletic philosopher. I am trying to bring together so many different things from the world of philosophy, abstract thought, history, theology, with my own experiences day to day in training, in competing, and in coaching. And so when I sign up for my very first solo race and then I go through it, like it's going to become a big piece of information that fits into this larger argument and this larger journey that I'm constructing and currently on. So this is like a gigantic piece of evidence. Think about it as a gigantic proof, a proof of concept or a proof of theory. So that's why we're sort of hammering onto this race a little bit more than some of the other topics that I've bounced around with on the podcast. Before I go right into race recap, I want to just take a little minute to discuss, the state of the podcast. And last year I had a goal, which was to try and record 52 podcast episodes. So I tried to hold myself to a standard of one podcast every week. And I believe I started off at episode 22 and we got to episode 66. Okay, so that was 44 episodes. So thank you everybody for coming along on the journey and listening and sharing and providing me love and encouragement. This is a really important forum for me to express creativity, but also to just talk out loud. And so a lot of this is me working out things in real time, improvisationally, and that has a tremendous power in allowing me to clarify things, in allowing me to crystallize things, in allowing me to practice the ways I communicate things, so that when I hop into what I do for my work, which is coaching, life coaching, and fitness coaching, intertwined, and also endurance training coaching, I'm firing all cylinders, and I'm able to just jump right into helping people where they're at with the best advice, the best wisdom, and the best knowledge that I can help them apply in their life. So it worked so well last year. I'm going to double down again this year for this podcast. My big goal is to get to 100 episodes, but ultimately, my big goal is to get to 200 episodes and 300 episodes and 400 episodes and 500 episodes. And it's not so much in terms of, by that time, X amount of subscribers and X amount of listeners and X amount of downloads and any of those things. Hopefully those things come, but if they don't, I really just love this space as a production mechanism and as a thought clarifying arena for me. And so I always hope to be jumping on the mic, and I always hope to be talking about my experiences, the experiences of the people that I coach, the ideas that form the foundation of the coaching, the way in which I bring this to life as a dad and as a husband and as an entrepreneur and as an athlete and as a coach. And so we're just going to aim for that 52 again. So we're going to try to improve upon 44, which would mean 44 would get us to 110 episodes by the end of the year. It'd be very cool to get over 115, shoot for that 120 episode by the end of the year, see if we can get it done. I'm already a week or two behind, but we can always figure out people to invite on, conversations to have, and topics to explore. All right, so with that said, let's get into post-race recap. We are talking about the Frozen Gnome 50K trail race that I just completed on Saturday, which was January the 10th, 2026, out in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Now, I've talked a lot about why I wanted to do this race, what was the motivation behind the race, why the logistics of the race all worked out really well for me. So check out a couple of those previous episodes. But the one that I'll start with was the one that I probably wanted to record the least out of all the podcasts last year, which was the race exposed my mental weakness. The race exposed my mental weakness. And that was me coming to a realization about the ways in which I generally go about racing and how a service first mentality gives me a little bit of an excuse to not necessarily push myself past the physical, sort of like past that physical barrier or that physical wall of total ruin. I've gone to that space a lot of times in training, and in particular training sessions, which were engineered specifically to bring about that state. So it's not as if I wish to avoid physical discomfort altogether, or even the extremes of physical discomfort. But I had noticed a pattern where I was always giving myself an out and always giving myself an excuse as to why I couldn't, say, go one lap further in the backyard ultra, for example. And so I wanted to take on this solo race just as a way to interrogate that tendency within myself and to see whether that's a limiting factor, whether that in fact is an enhancement of and a true a true embodiment of my character, and something I should maybe lean into a little bit more. It was just sort of up in the air. So I think what I'll do is I'll just talk about race day, a little bit of race prep, how the actual event went, and then once that's kind of out into the air, the meaning and sort of like the deep value and the lessons will kind of spin out from me describing the experience. And I think that's how we're going to get this guy done today. Again, I'm learning my way as a podcaster, so forgive me, but I think you have to say something like, if you enjoy the podcast, it'd be great if you could give me a big 5-star review, hit that subscribe button. All that does is send me love and let me know that the people out there listening really appreciate what I am putting out there. Also, if you enjoy the way I'm speaking about my own experiences, this is exactly the type of thing that I help build, craft, and provide for the clients that I'm grateful and fortunate enough to be a guide, a mentor, and a coach to. And so if you like the language, if you like the tone, if you like the tenor, if you like the aim, if you like the aspiration, if you like the process, if you like the transcendence that you're hearing, I'll drop my contact details down in the show notes page. Please get in contact with me about coaching inquiries. I got one-on-one options open. Not too many, but I got a few. And I also operate a group called The Temple, which we're kicking off our first cohort group call this week, but it's a full year, and the energy in there is just amazing. So if you're looking for camaraderie, if you're looking for support and accountability and people to share the struggle with, and if you're looking for some one-on-one guidance, I might be the guy for you. So check out those details and get in contact with me. I would love to help you and love to help you figure some of this stuff out for yourself. Okay, enough of the clerical stuff. Actually, that's not true. One more clerical thing. I am live streaming this on Twitter. Maybe I will get a question. Maybe I won't. So if there is a question that's live, I'm going to go to that. Otherwise, it's just a podcast, and people can kind of just watch live if they want or if they don't want. Okay. Frozen Gnome 50K. First things first, receipts. All right, so we got the bag. We finished. Right here. See? Solid little medal. I think I'm going to give this one to my wife. I don't like to keep the medals. I like to give them away to my family and let them have the emblem. I already I don't need the medal personally. I like to give it away. But we did it. We got the bag. And boy, howdy, was this ever a wild adventure. You know, when you sign up for something like a winter trail run, you have to be open to not knowing how that is going to go all the way up until the morning of the race, because the weather conditions are so variable that you don't really know what you're getting yourself into until the day of. And so, you know, race day really starts with checking the weather like 10 days before the race to see, are we getting a cold snap? Is there going to be lots of snow accumulating? Am I going to have to bring my my crampons, my ice spikes? How many layers am I going to have to be running in? What kind of gear? What kind of things am I going to be bringing? Are my water bottles going to freeze? Like there's all of these different elements. You know, going out on long winter trail runs for the past 4 or 5 years has taught me that you really cannot know what you're headed into until you start out on the trail. And even then, you don't really know what you're getting into, because some parts of the trail might be completely different from other parts of the trail. Now, I went out and I did some reconnaissance work on the terrain, so I knew what to expect. It was some steep up and downs up on some hills, windy, narrow, single track, but otherwise like pretty familiar terrain for me. The only thing that was up in the air was, what are the conditions going to be like on race day? So as I'm checking the forecast, you know, and the race day is getting closer, you know, 1 week, 6 days, 5 days, 4 days, there's an obvious trend. It is getting warm and it's about to get slippery, right? We had a gigantic, it's called a hydrologic system, which is when there's like a thin, narrow band of thunderstorms that just whoosh right through, like almost on a straight line. We had that came through in Chicago Thursday and Friday night. So it's kind of cold, but all throughout last week it was warming up into positive digits. So what does that look like for the trail? Well, it looks like mud. It looks like a lot of mud, because there had been some snow accumulation from the month before, and then the snow accumulation, when people are walking on it, turns into like a thick cover of ice that goes over the trail. And the only way for that to really go anywhere fast is for rain to wash it out. But that is going to create an immense amount of slippery, thick, and gross, disgusting mud. And I started to realize this maybe about Wednesday or so, that I was not going to be running a winter 50K. I mean, it was going to be in winter, but it wasn't what I imagined. I imagined running on snow and ice and having, you know, like really to think hard about things like frostbite and the fueling complications that come with not wanting to, say, like drink water at all when it's maybe negative 15 Celsius, like negative 10 Celsius, which is what, around like 10 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take, like cold. Like that's what I had thought. And all of a sudden it turned into having to go out in the worst weather. When I say worst weather, I'll say my least favorite weather, which is cold rain. So give me negative 5 degrees in snow. I want that. Don't give me 3 degrees in rain. And that's Celsius. But that's what we got. We got 3 days of rain, and we got warm temperatures. It was so warm, I got to ride my bike outside 2 days before the race. And it's like beginning of January, right at the beginning of winter. So the first thing that I had to battle was this sort of like psychology of, man, this ain't even the race I signed up to run. And now I got to run it in a terrain that I don't want to run it in. And I'm not interested and excited about going. Like when there's snow and ice, I get a little enthusiastic about the challenge. When there's rain and mud and it's cold, it doesn't really speak to me. That's more of a, let's grind it out. Let's just suffer. This is me just doing it. I'm not really enjoying it. It's how it tends to go for me. So that was the first battle. The first battle was like reminding myself I've got to be positive. I have to be grateful. I have to be enthusiastic. I have to be uplifting. Right? And I got to overcome the fact that this winter 50K is not even a real winter 50K, or at least not what I imagined, right? Which is fine because these things never go as you imagined. There's always 1,000 variables that you didn't think of, and they all get right in the way of the plan, the perfect plan that you had constructed. Like, this is why we throw ourselves into the arena, is so adaptations and modifications become the name of the game, and it's not just straight executing some standard plan that was concocted on a spreadsheet and can be just hit out like without any adversity. Like that's just not why we're doing this. So that was the first thing. So when I wake up on Saturday morning to go out, it's warm, it's mild, I can feel the wetness. I start to take a few things out to the car. It's around 4:30 or so, 4:30, 4:45. The race starts at 7:45. I've got to drive an hour to get there. I still got to do my race pack pickup. There's a parking lot that's going to get overflowed at some point. So I want to get there. I want to get my pack. I want to get a parking spot. And as I'm taking things into my car, the skies open up and it starts to rain a little bit. And then it really starts to rain. And I'm talking like 3 degrees Celsius, 37, 38 degrees Fahrenheit, pounding, pouring rain. And it's already been raining for 2 days in a row. So I'm thinking about these muddy, hilly trails and thinking they're just getting a fresh shower. They're just getting a fresh sheen. They're getting a fresh wash to be even slipperier and even muddier, because it's not just rain that's coming down, it's sleet. So think like 80% rain, 20% snow mix. That's what's coming down. And it's just relentless. And the only thing you can do is laugh. You just gotta laugh, because you have to go out and run in this stuff. You gotta go do 50K. You're gonna start off the morning. Oh, it's raining. Oh, it's wet. Oh, I'm gonna be cold. Oh, it's gonna be muddy. Oh, you already lost. Like you might as well not even show up. You already lost with your negative attitude, right? So I'd been working on this positive attitude the whole week because I knew it was going to be like this. So when the morning came, there was no wallowing, there was no pity party. It was just, all right, man plans, God laughs. Let's laugh along with God. Like, there's nothing you can do when you're driving in the dark and the rain is literally getting heavier and heavier and heavier the more you drive toward the start and the start and the start. Like, I texted my coach, Zach Hummel, about this, and it was like this incredible torture. It's this incredible torture having to drive out knowing that you're going to be taking on all of these muddy hills, and it just keeps raining harder and harder. And what is particular about this race, which I already knew, this is a loop race, so it's 5 times on the same loop. And every time you walk on mud, it doesn't get firmer, it gets slipperier. So it gets worse. So every lap, it's going to be worse. Every lap is slipperier. Every lap is less secure. So by the time it's like the fourth and the fifth lap, you're going around this thing, you may not even be able to climb up these hills. It might be so muddy, which did turn out to be the case for some of them. So I'm watching this as I'm driving out there, and I'm just not allowing it to affect me, because I can't change any of this. I signed up for the race. I'm showing up, and I'm going to bring my best attitude, and I'm going to bring my best self. Right? So the whole drive out there is just like this slow torture that you just have to accept, and you got to start laughing about, which I thought was hilarious as I was driving out. So I have all my gear. I decided on a rather lean setup in terms of I didn't want a lot of layers. I didn't want to have to take things on and off. I decided on wearing running tights and some shorts. I wore just a regular pair of running running socks, thin pair. And I wore my Ultra Olympus. This is a new pair, which is nice. I have to retire the pair that I ran in, which they're a year old, but they're literally caked and covered in mud. But these are the Olympus 5s, and they are covered in a beautiful, beautiful protective layer of Gore-Tex, so nothing gets in this. My feet were, for 6.5 hours of running through mud, my feet were great. Like, only at the very end did a little dirt kind of get in. My feet were kind of wet a little bit, but honestly, it's more from sweating than it was from like, oh, like my feet are just soaking wet. I didn't feel like I had wet feet at all. It was great. So I got my shoes, I got my one pair of running tights, I got my shorts, bottom half's taken care of. Like it's right around the freezing point. So it's kind of cold if you're standing there, but once you're walking and moving, like your legs just aren't cold. I wore a long base layer. We have a beautiful white with the interaction with boldness logo for Team Tribal. So I wore that. And then I just wore a thin rain jacket, like a shell, to block the wind. And it was raining and sleeting, so I needed something to keep my top half dry. And then on the top, I had a visor, a running visor, and a toque. So I started with the toque on, and I took it off when I got hot. The running visor is great because when it's raining and snowing, you want the biggest brim you can so that you can protect your face from the wetness. Like you just don't want to get hit in the face with rain all day. And it rained and sleeted for the first 5 hours of the race. So that was my gear setup. I was pretty certain on the gear setup, but I brought a bag filled with everything. Like I had backup everything. I had backup running tights, backup shorts. I had backup shoes. I had waterproof running socks. I had a backup base layer. I had backup jacket. I had backup toque. I had 4 pairs of gloves, different weights. I had my ski gloves. I had these really thick insulated outdoor work gloves that are literally meant for like heavy construction workers. I had a thick pair of smoker's gloves, which are like these thick wool gloves that, you know, you have individual fingers, but you can wrap a mitten on top of it, and then you can take the mitten off and expose your fingertips. And then I just had 2 pairs of thin running gloves. I ended up only using 1 pair of gloves the entire time. But again, when it comes to the winter and it comes to a long trail race, you just don't know, and you want options. I also brought hiking poles, so I figured if I'm taking my hiking poles and I'm wearing gloves, I might want a whole bunch of different kind of gloves because my hands could get really cold. They could get really wet, so I may just want a new pair of gloves every lap to come back in. So I had a lot of stuff that I brought, but I didn't use it, and I didn't need to use it. It was just like a little bit of a emotional security, and you know, it's a 5-lap course, so you come back to the same start finish 5 times, so you can just leave a bag right there. It was covered, so my stuff wasn't getting wet, and the fact that I didn't use it was great. But having it there is really important. So I had a lot of stuff, but I didn't use a lot of stuff. Okay. And I also didn't really pack up my bag because I wasn't sure, like my running pack. I used the time in the parking lot to figure out what I wanted, and we'll come back to that because there's one mistake that I made during the race, and it's related to the pack, but we'll get there. So I drive out. We get to the parking lot. It's pitch dark. I got to walk in to get my race packet, pick up. Everyone's really nice and friendly. You can tell that people are not super happy with the conditions. Some people are just huddled over and miserable. There's one guy that got out and started doing like limber stretching, which is one way to deal with it, but it's also like, dude, you're not fooling anybody. It's cold and it's raining and ain't nobody want to be out there. So you trying to be all tough doing your stretches out in the rain, it's cool, but doing them 45 minutes before the race, all you're doing is showing us that you're a little insecure about the weather. Right? You're trying to show that it doesn't bother you. The thing that I know about the winter is that you just want to be cold. Or sorry, you don't want to be cold. Pardon me. You don't want to be cold. My phone is going to die here for a second, so the live stream will try and hold on. If not, no big deal. I'm not going to go and find my charging cable and do all that in the middle of the podcast. Like, nah, it's all good. You know, in terms of preparation and waiting it out, I brought my big heavy winter coat. I wore a pair of skate pants, which is like the pants you wear as a hockey coach on the ice. So they're a little bit insulated and they're a little bit water resistant. They're not super warm. They're not waterproof, but they're really nice to have. So I was wearing my skate pants and I was wearing my big winter coat over top of all my other gear. So I'm not trying to prove that I'm tough or anything. I'm just not willing to be cold. So I walk over to the race with that stuff. I wear the winter coat and the skate pants until about 2 minutes before the race goes off, and then I take those layers off, and then I walk to the starting line because I don't want my muscles to get cold and I don't want to be wet. And I want to be able to put on warm things that are dry the minute the race is over, which I have there. What else? Yeah, so in the car, after I get my race pack, there's like about 45 to 50 minutes of waiting. I just slow down and I take that time to look at all the food that I brought, all the fuel, and I'm thinking, okay, here's what I want in the pack. Here's where I want this to be. I take my electrolytes in terms of like packs I can add in to water. I got 2 water bottles. I got a liter of water. I have salt tabs. My preference is to eat the salt tabs and then drink the fresh water as opposed to mixing the electrolytes in with the water. But again, you want options, and it weighs nothing to bring like little packs of elements in your case. I had Cliff Bars. I had Maple Boost, which shout out to Ryan, Coach Ryan from Tribal. It's killer, such a killer product. Everybody go get the Maple Boost. It's so good. And a couple of my little caffeinated chocolates. They're called the Wake chocolates. They got 50 milligrams of caffeine, and they're just the best. Now, I thought when I was packing them, I thought I packed 3 of everything, like enough for 1 of everything on 3 laps, and then I would be able to stop. My initial plan was to blow the first 2 aid stations, coming in at 6.2 miles. So 6.2, I am regularly out running trail half marathons. It's just my normal standard training run on a weekend. So doing 2 loops without having to stop is not a big issue for me. And I do those fasted without water and without any fuel. So my plan was to blow the aid station the first time and the second time and then stop and restock. Didn't happen, and this was my mistake. This was the big mistake that I made during the race. So I got my pack, I got my gear, I'm off to the starting line. 7:45, we go. Now, what's kind of weird about this race is there's 50K and there's a 10K option. Everybody starts at the same time, which I do not appreciate as a 50K runner because the vast majority of people are there running the 10K. They're not trail runners, and it just was a little bit chaotic. It's a little bit too much. I would have appreciated, like, send the 50Kers off like 10 minutes before, like, or something. Just there was 100 of us and maybe like 200 of the 10K runners, or maybe even more. I don't even know. There's a lot. So I'm not interested in like performance. I want this race to be smooth. I want it to go well. I want to be consistent. I want to finish strong. And I do not want to jeopardize my ability to run a 50-mile trail race in the desert at the end of the month because I'm coaching in that one. That's like actually my job. Like I'm supposed to be there at the 50-miler to help other people get through the 50-miler, which means I cannot be hurting and I cannot be relying on other people for help. So I'm just not able to, and this is a theme, I'm not able to fully go to the physical wall in this race. Because if I do, I put something that's even more valuable in jeopardy, which is my role on the team as the travel prof and as someone who live coaches people through these gigantic trail ultras. So going into the day, it was like, be strong, be smooth, be measured, have a good effort, fuel properly, stay consistent, strong finish. It was nothing, and I had a time idea, but you just don't know if, like, I was thinking somewhere around 6 hours. If it's snowing, if it's muddy, could be 6.5. I certainly did not want to be 7 hours. So in my mind, somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5 was where I was going to end up. The best conditions or the worst conditions. Okay. We ended up with pretty close to the worst conditions. I still came in under that time, but first lap, I'm not trying to get up to the start line. I'm just sort of in the pack with everybody. And I'm just figuring, hey, if I'm in a big pack with everybody, it's just going to be slow. It's going to be measured. and it's not going to be bad, and I'll just start to figure out a way to get past some people. So I start out, I'm in a giant mass of people, we're walking, and I'm not pushing, I'm not pressing, I'm just finding some openings where the trail widens up, and then I'm running past people and fitting in. I'm not doing anything silly. The thing about these single track trail races is some people decide to pass in instances where it's not safe, and then they put everybody at danger because it's so slippery and it's so muddy, and you're jumping in the middle of trees. And there's a couple of people who did this during the day, and I just did not appreciate it. So there's no chance I was doing that to other people. But I emerged with a bit of a mini goal after the first 20 minutes, which was, you know what? I'm going to pass a bajillion people. I would really appreciate not to be passed at all during the race. Like, if I pass someone and I see them go past me, I got to get past them at some point. So this became a little mini game that I started to play with myself. And one thing that I did not realize in the first lap was that there were so many people doing the 10K that they were going like hard. And it wasn't necessarily hard for me, but I probably went a lot faster than I would have because I started like sprinting through people. I put it like really fast little spurt efforts, and my heart rate was kind of like it was like up and down and up and down and up and down because I was trying to find these gaps so I could run a little bit and get into a flow, but that actually kind of like spiked up my heart rate a little bit. So I think that was a bit of a mistake, number one. Just not recognizing that people running the 10K were going to take me out of a 50K pace. I didn't even think we were going to be all running together. So I didn't put that into my equation at all. So that was a bit tricky. That was a bit tricky there. So the first lap's going well. Like, I'm getting a sense of the terrain. It's so gross. The mud is so thick. Like, it's already just like clumping onto your shoes, and it's adding like a pound or an extra pound and a half on each one of your feet for every single step. There's lots of people kind of everywhere. About mile 4 is when it started to open up a little bit and I could start running. So about 2/3 of the way through this first lap, and you're just kind of winding through this single track up and down and all around these muddy hills. And it's really good trail. Really fun for running. Just not when there's like 200 other people and it's all mud. I think my favorite part of the race happened on like the actual race. My favorite part happened, and I think I wanted to do the solar race to see like what just naturally comes out of me, and what naturally comes out of me is helping. I'm there. I love coaching. I love helping people. And as we were coming up, there's this one lady who's in front of me, and it's clear she's doing the 10K, and she's dying. You can just hear her. It's like she is just struggling. But I know that we're close, and I just became her coach. Right in the back. I don't even think she saw me. I didn't even stop when she passed the line, but I was behind her like, you're so close. You're doing amazing. Like the tent, I can hear the PA. I can hear the announcer. Look, there's the tent. Look, we just got to run around this guy. Like, go hard. Finish strong. Like, you're doing amazing. Stay committed to yourself. Like, be your best. And I just coached her up like that for the final maybe like 4 minutes of her 10K race. And I just had the biggest smile. I loved it. It was, I wasn't thinking about my own time. I wasn't thinking about my own effort. I was just moving and helping this other person. And then they crossed the line, and then I kept going. I blew the first aid station. And 10K people were done. And now it was like 4 laps left. I think I did that first lap in about an hour and 8 minutes. So not so bad. One thing that I never did was I never looked at the leaderboard. I never knew where I was. I assumed, based on the way that I started, that I was in the bottom half of the 50K, and I was always going to be in the bottom half of the 50K. And I didn't care about the place that I came in, as again, my goal was smooth effort, strong effort, consistent effort. You cannot destroy your legs. You just, especially with the mud, it became preserve your legs at all costs, because I cannot beat them up. I cannot have like 2 weeks off of training because I destroyed my legs trying to run up mud hills as fast as I could for 6 hours. Just not able to do that, especially with the 50 miler coming. I'm just not able to. Lap 2 is great. There's one guy that I knew who was running this race. We had run Prairie on Fire together in 2024, and we just hooked up for a couple of the night laps. Turned out that this guy was from Chicago. I was moving to Chicago, so we had some really good chats. Turned out he was coming to run the race. And after that sort of 4 miles of the first lap where you're just kind of with everybody, I was starting to pick people off. Like I had a nice consistent pace. I was not forcing anything, but people who were running the 50K were getting behind me. And I was just keeping my eye out for my friend. And I found him about a mile and a half in, and we ended up running basically that entire second lap together, which was great. We got to catch up. He said he was starting to enter into a little bit of a bad mind space, so he enjoyed the conversation. I was going a little bit slower than maybe I would have wanted to if I was just on my own, but it was really nice to hook up with my man. Shout out Dan. It was awesome to see you, and you had an amazing race. But right towards the end of that lap, we went down this ridiculous mud hill, and I caught some pretty good momentum, and I kept the momentum going, and he kind of slowed down, and we were going to separate at the end of the lap anyways. So I came around lap 2 in about an hour and 7 minutes or so, and I blew the aid station. And for the first 3 laps, I loved my fueling. I thought I was doing such a good job. I was moving in between, sort of eating a Cliff Bar, having the Maple Boost, the small ones, which are about like 80 calories, popping some salt tabs, drinking some water, having the Awake chocolate. Like I just felt good, and I felt so good with the combination that I had for fueling that I thought, I don't even need to go to my bag. I think I have enough fuel on me to just hit this whole thing. And so I decided to blow aid station number 3 as well. So I had 1, 2, I was for sure blowing. So blowing at 12 miles and change and 18 miles and change. I decided to do the same thing at 24 miles and change as well. Because I just was feeling good. I was feeling light. I wasn't feeling dehydrated. I felt like I was spacing out the calories really nicely, probably getting somewhere around 300 calories every hour, with a good amount of electrolytes with the salt tabs and with the Maple Boost. It was going well. The problem was I miscalculated how much I was carrying. If you remember, I thought that I was carrying 3 of everything. So it's like 3 Cliff Bars, 3 Maple Boosts, 3 of the Awake chocolates. Turns out I only had 2. And I didn't realize that until I went to go and grab them. That was a big problem. That was in the beginning of lap 4. So after I blew aid station number 3, boom. And I went and I was looking for that 3rd Maple Boost, and I wasn't finding it. And then I thought, oh shoot, I made a mistake. I only packed 2. I thought I packed 3 of everything, and I only packed 2. So I kind of got into a deficit on lap 4. But otherwise, I was feeling good. We're talking like negative splits on each lap. When I finished lap 3, I think I was in like 16th or 17th place, maybe like low 20s. But by the time I finished lap 4, going out to lap 5, I was in 16th place. So I was rocketing up the charts. And I was doing well with a consistent pace. I had a good strategy of walking up all the hills. My real advantage was 12 years of technical trail running, really technical trail running. I could spot the solid pieces of ground where I could get some traction, like so easily. I was not in the mud like other people were in the mud. I know where to find the good spots. I know how to slide down and keep going. I know how to get up, right? So I noticed this. I noticed that my pace on the flats was not much different from a lot of people, but I would always separate myself out in these very technical parts of the trail where I could keep going at the same speed and everybody else had to stop. Everybody else had to figure out how not to fall face first or ass backwards right into the mud. I could just keep going. So all the snow running, all the ice running, all the running in the thunderstorms for 10 plus years gave me a monster advantage because I didn't have to push hard to find separation with most people. And it gives me a lot of confidence knowing that if I wanted to go really fast and push hard, like I could be up in those top performing categories. Maybe not going for podium, but certainly like top 10, not a problem. And looking back on the way the times filtered out, top 10 next year if I want it. It's not a problem. If I feel correctly. So the race was going well. It was cold and it was wet, but I felt great. My layering was just on point. I was switching in between having gloves on and having gloves off, but for the most part, the toque was off, and like I was in a good place mentally, good place physically, until I made the fueling mistake. And that hurt. It wasn't that my body like started to hurt, like I started to feel a little bit of soreness, but it was the motivation. It was the way in which the physical saps the mental and the spiritual. The idea of pushing hard became, no, I don't want that. Remember, I'm not blowing myself up on this effort. So as I started to slow down, because I was at a calorie deficit and an electrolyte deficit and a caffeine deficit, my will to just keep moving at a fast pace just evaporated. And I got to a point in that fourth lap, right? I'm low on calories, I'm low on water, I'm low on electrolytes, I'm low on caffeine. And I look at my watch and I think, I'm walking the rest of this race. I'm not interested in fighting my legs. I'm not interested in doing something silly, because at this point in the race, we're 25, 26 miles in. It's so slippery on these hills. It's so muddy. You're so sick of mud, but it doesn't take much for your leg to fly out in one direction. You can pull a muscle. You can injure yourself horribly in this state if you're not paying attention, or if you're like fighting and grinding and you're like, I'm just going to make the time. You take the wrong foot on the wrong turn at the wrong angle and you are sliding all over it. You can be flying into the woods. You can be face down. Like it's ugly. It can be really, you should have seen the way some of these people looked. You're talking like mud all up and down their bodies. You're talking like bruises and scrapes and blood coming down people's legs and on their arms and stuff. And if I don't have another race for another 6 months, I'm totally with them. But it's just not me. And, we're sort of hurtling towards the obvious realization and the obvious lesson, the obvious meaning of the race here. Moment by moment, blow by blow here. But that was not on the table for me. And one of the things that I know I'm going to be having to do as a live coach is power hiking. I'm not going to be running a lot of this race. I'm going to be power hiking a lot of this race. So in my mind, it's like, I don't want to go out for lap 5. Like, I want to quit. I'm done. That's when the race started for me. Endurance races always start when you want to quit. And I started, and you know how that happens in your mind. The excuse starts to happen where it's like, yeah, the bye-bye live stream. Phone died. Who cares? We'll do it next. We'll do it better next time. Lost my train of thought. Wanting to quit. I definitely wanted to quit. I 1,000% wanted to quit. And you know how that starts to happen in your mind? It's like, well, what story could I start telling other people that would make it so that they would think I didn't quit? Because you quit. Like, that's obvious. But what you really want is some sort of an alibi that you can pass off to other people, so at least they think you're still a badass and that you didn't quit. And for me, that's like, well, it's a little long, the course, so I'll be past the marathon. It's a trail marathon. You can't expect to do well in the muddy conditions and everything. And I have a big race, and it would make sense to me to just not even go back out. Like, I don't need the race medal to prove to anybody anything. So why wouldn't I just stop when it's the right thing when it could be the right thing to do? The brain loves this. The brain wants, like, you make a decision and then the brain constructs the justification afterwards. You never do it the other way. So once you start noticing this dialogue inside of you, you're like, oh, okay, this is where I got to push through. And the way for me to push through isn't to just grind for time. It's to like slow down, use what you have available to you, lean in on some of that ultramarathoning wisdom, know that you're going to finish, know that you're going to make it. You just have to check down where you are in your effort, and you got to fix the fueling issue. So right around mile 5 or so of that fourth lap, so about a mile left, I just made the decision. I'm walking. I'm walking into the aid station. I don't care if I get passed by every single person. And I'm just going to go to my bag. I'm going to get the fuel that I need. And I'm going to just start walking. And I'm going to get back on the course. And I'm going to resolve myself to walking the entire lap if that's what it takes. And was doing the calculations in my mind. And if I had just walked, that final 7 miles and change would have brought me in around 6 hours and 45 minutes. So still not a bad time. And that's what I did. You just make the decision. So I get to that, I cross the finish line. I go to my bag. I get immediately every single piece of that awake chocolate. I got 2 left. So both in my mouth. Boom. 100 milligrams of caffeine. That's going to eventually work its way into my system and motivate me. I get the maple boost. It's like 2 of them are in my mouth as fast as possible. I just need energy and I need the electrolytes. I grab some more water, chomp down some more salt pills, and I just put my head down and I just walk, right? And it's not a big deal. I'm walking quickly. I'm walking with purpose. I'm practicing this power hike, this very fast walking stride. I've gone from running like 12-minute miles and a little less to now walking 16.5-minute miles, which is totally fine. And eventually what happens, and this is always what happens, is you get it back. Halfway through that final lap, and I'm walking down these hills, and it's like, I'm just going to start running. I'm going to start running on the downhills. And then that felt okay. And then you start running on the flats, and you're like, that feels okay too. So the final 3 miles, it's like I was back to the same way that I started lap 4. Like, nice consistent pacing, good strategy, feeling good, smiling. Now, I never allowed the calorie deficit to affect my outlook and the way I was talking with people on the course and encouraging the people who were passing me and all these things. It was just more of that internal motivation to go hard was sapped because I didn't have the energy. And I wasn't about to put myself in a dangerous situation where I can slip and like just tear every single muscle in both my legs because of all of the thick mud. And so another thing is like my family's coming to see me at the finish line. Like, it's a gross, as I mentioned, it was raining and sleeting for 5 hours. So I don't want them out there. I don't want them waiting in these awful conditions where they're going to get sick and they're going to get miserable. So we had made the plan, just come and see me for when I cross the finish line. Like, maybe be at the race for 10 or 15 or 20 minutes before. Now, luckily the sun came out. So it was at least sunny when they got there. It was muddy and wet and windy and still kind of yucky. But my family showed up. It was great. They ended up being there for about 10 minutes before I came through and saw them at the end. So what am I going to do? I'm going to call and say, hey, I'm quitting. I'm only going to do 4 of the 5 laps. Like, I don't want to do anymore. I called and I said, listen, I'm just taking it slow. There's no urgency on this last one. I think it's probably going to be a little bit after 2 o'clock. I know we discussed like 1:45, but it's going to be slower than that. And I'm not putting myself in jeopardy, and I'll see you guys when I see you guys. And so that was great. So the final lap was a really good reminder to me about the importance of staying up on your fuel. And it's not that I'd forgotten. It's just I should have checked. I should have double checked how much stuff I was carrying on my person, and recognizing that I didn't have as much as I thought. I would have been able to just quickly jump into my bag for 2 minutes not even 2 minutes to restock, and not blow by the aid station. Going out onto that 4th lap. So it was just a little bit of a mistake on my part, which forced me to walk for about 4 miles when I could have run for 4 miles. So the overall time difference, we're thinking something, I'm thinking it might have been 15 or 20 minutes. And that was with me totally managing the effort. And I would have placed, I came in 22nd out of 91, top 12 with a total managed effort, not trying to go as fast as possible, not maxing out performance. So ultimately, I think performance-wise, this was a really good showing. I'm really proud. I came in, chip time was 6 hours and 26 minutes and 57 seconds. So chip time was under 6:27. Very solid. considering again that I made the decision to walk for 4 miles in a row. Very happy. Very, very happy with that. You know, if coaching that lady was the best part of the race, the obvious other best part of the race was coming out of the woods and seeing my family waiting with a sign, my wife, my 2 kids. I got to hold my daughter's hand. The way the race kind of ends is you do a little bit of a tiny little kind of like a J in this field. So you run a little bit on this grass. You're doing like a J, and then you come into the finish line. So I got to hold my daughter's hand. We ran this grassy part together, and you know, it's like, this is the best. I'm so happy I get to be with you running this race, Dad, and I'm so happy I get to run with you. This is the best part of the day for me, seeing your mother and your brother and everybody. And you know, as we came in, I stopped right before the finish line. Like, I don't care about the fastest I can get over the line. So I stop. I pick up my girl. She's 7.5, and I put her into Superman position. And so she flies across. I help her fly across the finish line to finish the 50K. It's the best. My wife has a video. We got photos. Like, this is why we do it. It's 1,000% why we do it. I'm not interested in like emerging from the woods, blood and mud. And I'm just like, and I'm like, I'm finishing as fast as possible. Go over and meet me. Like, and I eke out like a 9th place finish, and it's 5 hours and 58 minutes or whatever, just to get under the 6. And then I'm just dead and I have nothing. And they're just there for me. While there is a scenario in which that is a positive, and I hope to experience that at some point, I don't want that. I don't desire that. I desire to show my family that this is a fun, adventurous, enjoyable, imaginative, curious, adventurous kind of an experience that I love to do, not so that I can be tough and I grind it out, but that it's a celebration of my spirit and of joy and of love, right? And that to me, that is the most important element of these races. And I wanted to test that out in a solo race where I could have allowed the hyper competitive part of me to take over. Like, when people were passing me on that final lap, it would have been so easy to just be like, no, I'm going to empty the tank and I'm going to take these souls and like, I'm going to beat these people. And that never even like entered into my mind. Not even for 1 second. Which to me was like a very powerful realization. One of the things that I've been hesitant about in the world of competition is reawakening the hyper competitive monster that lies and lurks beneath the surface. And when I was a kid growing up and I was an athlete, I didn't so much love to win as I hated to lose. I hated to lose. I hated to lose. And I hated to lose so badly that it was detrimental to myself. So angry, so frustrated, so mean to myself. And I did, I think, a really good job of minimizing that part of myself after, you know, my youth athletic career was over. You know, crushing injuries just took any future I had off the table. But I was really worried, and this was a narrative and a story that I told myself about myself. I don't want to do races because I'm afraid that I'm going to care too much about the outcomes and I'm going to do something stupid and I'm going to hurt myself. But that was a cope. That was a clear cope. That part never emerged. There was never this temptation from the lower self to put injury on the table, to put something that was not valuable to me on the table in place of what really was valuable. And the solo race, now we're sort of just getting into the meaning of the race here. The solo race for me, you know, when I envisioned it, I started out thinking, I want to take myself to the limit. I want the physical ruin, and I think I need to be freed from any coaching or any external responsibility. I just don't think that's possible. I don't think I can do it. And you may say, or I might say, well, that's a limitation. And yeah, that may be true. But however, what's the trade-off? Like, nothing for free. So if I end up with that experience, what do I have to give away? And is what I gained more valuable than what I traded? At this point, I'm not willing to trade. I'm not willing to kill myself in a competition. I'm not willing to hurt myself. I'm not willing to try to cross that line as fast as possible with whatever it takes. We're gonna try this again later in the year when we go back to Prayer on Fire, and like if I don't get 100 miles this time, like I'm really gonna be hurt, like in a lot of ways. So that might be a more appropriate place for me to go out and try this, but I'll be surrounded by family, I'll be surrounded by teammates, and that coaching part of it could come to the fore, and the coaching part could be the thing that gets me over the 100 miles, which is honestly what I've been thinking about for months and months and months now. So I think ultimately when it comes to the meaning of this race, it's more of a solidification of character and the fact that I am who I am. And I am somebody who's going to pour his heart out in the race towards other people more than he is towards himself. Maybe I'm just too selfless of a person. Maybe I'm never going to be selfish enough in order to go after the things that are mine. That may be true. That may not be true. But where I'm at right now in my journey, I'm at total peace. I'm at total peace with the fact that I don't need a competition to sell out physically. I think for a lot of people, it's very valuable for them to do it. I think for myself, it's not. I think the fact that I got lit up on the inside, encouraging that lady to bust her butt to finish that 10K with high integrity, that's so much more meaningful and valuable to me than me doing it myself. I do that in the training. I've taken myself to the limit in training sessions and in challenges that I've just created for myself. I ran a marathon on the snow and the ice on a Thursday because it was there. That hurt. That was worse in a lot of senses. You know, like if my style is getting to 96% of the physical effort and saying that's good enough and allowing the other 4% to be put back into my ability to pour out into other people, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that every single time. Every single time. And whereas before this race, I may have looked for some excuses or justifications to say, well, I just haven't been given the opportunity. Now I can say confidently, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Someone on the outside may see something different, and future races and future training that could expose this further. So this is not the final definition. This is just where we're at right now in the process. And the process is telling me you do your best when you pour into others. You're at your best when you save part of yourself to give to other people. And why is this important? Well, let's mention that backyard, that Prayer on Fire backyard ultra that is coming up in September where we're going to hit 100 miles. I've already been thinking about the strategy. And the strategy is not get hard by yourself so that you can grind it out in isolation. It's to make the night course just like the day course, which means team, which means me coaching, which means me supporting others, which means me having fun and enjoying the effort and not turning it into a suffer fest and a pity fest and a hard fest. It's obviously hard. You don't need to make it more artificial, like the difficulty with an overly tough mindset of needing to grind through it all. Like, lighten up, guys. Like, the reason I had success on that 5th lap was because I took all the pressure off, and lo and behold, when I felt like I could run, I started, and then I became accountable to where my body was in the moment. Just like I didn't feel bad about walking the whole time when it wasn't there, when I didn't have it. So when it comes to using this race to inform how I'm going to go about the next races, it is Rely on your strengths and don't try to artificially enhance what is a bad trade for you, which is becoming more selfish as opposed to being more selfless. When I hit 21 laps at the backyard, because I've been thinking about this night course for a while. Why did I get to 21? It's because I engaged in coaching. I actively saw people on the night course that I'd seen during the day course who I was coaching, just random people, and I made it a point to coach them, to get into conversation with them, to keep that lightness in my effort by pouring out love into others. And that's what's going to help me go even farther on the next race. It's not me being even harder as an individual because I can grind through more pain. It's relying on the things that make it easier for me, that define my own style, which is helping other people while I'm doing it. That eases my burden. That takes my own thoughts away from myself and allows me to just help others, which in turn just keeps me moving forward effortlessly. I don't have to think about moving when I'm helping somebody. When I'm on my own, it's a lot more difficult. That's what I'm learning. And is this some sort of a limit on my toughness? I don't care if that's what you think. I don't need to prove it to you. I do the races for self-knowledge. I do the races for self-discovery, ultimately so that I can self-master. And if every time that I go out and race, the big signal is you do better when you're helping. You do better when you're helping. You're a great helper out here. You're a great helper out here. You do better when you're helping. You do better when you're helping. Well, guess what the signal is? You better start helping more. You better throw in more to that energy. The idea that it's your glory and it's your individual achievement, gone, out. Don't need it. For real, when I say I don't want the medals, I really don't want the medals. I want the information. I want the experience. I want the knowledge. And that's exactly what I got. I know how to keep moving. I know how to execute a race. I know what to do when you make a mistake. I know how to keep a positive mind frame. I know how to dig deep and give a better effort at the end of the whole thing. I know how to finish strong. What I needed to know was that competitive part of you is not coming back in the sense of negative hyper competition based on your need to win and other people needing to lose. That part of me doesn't exist anymore. And that means that I can move forward in competition, solo competition, with a lot more of an open heart, with a lot more love and appreciation for the opportunity. And there will be a race in the future where that, it all happens, where I'm expiring right at the finish line and I have given it all. It's out there somewhere for me. It wasn't this race. It may not be the next 10 solo races. Who knows? But I don't need it to be, and I don't need to manufacture it, and I don't need to force it into the equation. What I need to do is take the information that I've gotten about myself and figure out how to apply it. So as I am trying to grow in business, which is one of these ways I want to transfer this lesson, especially like as I put in those earlier podcasts that, I put a lot of my own ambition on the back burner when we did the move, because having the our domestic and home life being stable and harmonious as we're moving countries with 2 small kids is a little bit more important than trying to grab that one extra lead and overextend my capacity to both service people and, support my wife and my kids. I was hoping that this solo effort would be a window into how I can properly harmonize my own business aspirations to grow with needing to be the domestic, the stay-at-home dad here in Chicago while my wife works and travels, and we don't have the normal supports that that were around us when we were living back in Ontario, in terms of family and friends who could help out. And it's the same lesson. And it's amazing because it's already been happening. I grow when I do things for other people. I'm not the kind of entrepreneur that has success because I've got a sweet marketing pitch, or that I've got bulletproof back-end systems that deliver, my website to the top of the search engine, and then there's beautiful copy and testimonials that mesmerize the person like into believing what I have to say without having met me, and then they buy from me. Like, that's just never going to be my thing. What happens? Like, how do I grow? Well, I grow by helping the people that I'm helping as best I can, and resolving to do even better, right? So I actually gain not by thinking about myself, but by helping others. And this is how it's always worked for me in business. Every time I've tried to do like the standard online entrepreneurial business thing, I end up flushing money down the toilet and I never get more clients. Every single time I listen to my heart, I help people, money flows and people sign up to be coached. And that was a big reminder with the group that I put together, right? I focused on reaching out and serving people that I was already coaching, bringing them into a group, people who I'd already worked with, who I knew wanted to re-engage. And by focusing my heart and energy just on making a group work with people that I already trusted, lo and behold, that created the energy and the inertia for me to bring somebody in on the outside, not with like a landing page, not with an email sequence, not with some of the back end things like I'm working on, because you do need that stuff and you need to work on it. But that's not it's the same thing. It's like I do the races not for the medals, but for the process of training and of learning about myself. So with the back end stuff with the business, it's like, yeah, it's very good to build landing pages and to work on your copywriting and to build out offers, both paid and free, and to do lead generation and all those things. All that stuff is good, but that's not what actually works in getting me clients. It works in making me more of a believer in myself as an entrepreneur. And when I believe in myself as an entrepreneur, I throw into the people that I'm already serving. And that is the energy. That's the energy that brings more people into my orbit, that allows me to connect with a random on the internet. And within 3 weeks, we've signed up for a year coaching, and buddies in my group, shout out to my boy Quincy. Like, you're a killer, man. Like, I love how we were able to interact, and I was able to connect with you based on me just opening up my heart and just sharing and pouring into you and asking if you needed help and giving you my perspective, right? Just helping, being the coach, loving people, pouring out help and value where I see it. That's what allows me to grow, is by pouring into the selflessness that drives the whole enterprise. And that obviously then has to be the same thing with the success in the races. The more I get selfish and think about my time and my achievement, the worse it gets. When I'm throwing in for other people, the effort becomes so easy. The effort becomes so easy. And that's the big takeaway for me. Now, if I didn't burn my phone battery trying to do a live stream at the same time, I would be able to pull up the notes in a little more of a fashion. But, I've been reading the Tao for the past week. Everybody should read the Tao. I'm talking about the Tao Te Ching, written by Lao Tzu, the foundation of Taoist philosophy. But I think one of the more beautiful bridge philosophies in the world. Taoism really is a beautiful bridge between Eastern traditions and Western traditions. It's the most individualized of the Eastern philosophic traditions. So it merges really nicely with the Western philosophical traditions, which are all individualized. Western philosophy is time is a line that goes. Eastern philosophy is like time is a circle that goes around and around. Taoism is like a nice little infinity loop that brings those two together. Not quite, but definitely so. If you've read the Tao and you like the Tao, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. But there's a couple notes that I just want to quickly pull up to end off this episode. To talk to you again about why the races, why do we do them, what's the proper perspective, and especially this idea of like selflessness versus selfishness, which was the dynamic I personally was investigating in this race and through this episode. So give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up the notes on my desktop here. Not there. Not there. Here. All right. Okay, so first one. This is from the nourishment of the person. So this is like, you know how you do scripture verses like Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. We got the Tao. This would be chapter 2, which is the nourishment of the person. This would be verse 4. The work is accomplished and there is no resting in it. In parentheses, as an achievement. Okay? The work is accomplished and there's no resting in it as an achievement. Pretty simple. Do the work. Do not rest on the outcome. Do the work. Do not rest on the outcome. Right? It's not the outcome that matters of the race. It's the work, the process, and the achievement. This is exactly the same ideal as the ancient Greeks when it comes to sports, competition, and athletic training. Like Lao Tzu and Aristotle, they may as well be homeboys. Honestly, they're so close in so many things that they say, and this is one of them. Aristotle, when he talks about happiness, and this is before modern psychology basically proved that modern psychology is really bad at proving things, but like it's good at solidifying some good conventional wisdom and philosophy. Happiness isn't the goal. Happiness is working towards the goal. That's Aristotle 101. Clearly, Lao Tzu 101 as well. So all of the races, they are not important as standalone events with outcomes that I can now attach merit and achievement to. They are valuable because they are guideposts on the journey, and they give me something to aim for, they hold me accountable, and they give me true information about myself that I can use to go even further into my own journey of improving myself and becoming the best that I possibly can. So it's never, ever about the result, which is one of the reasons why I'm not so interested in physically destroying myself when I know that there's other things that have to happen. And I think that is appropriate. I think the fact that I can't go fully selfish into an activity like a physical competition like this is just good. I think it's sound wisdom on how we should view these achievements. The achievement's not mine anyways. Like in the ancient Olympics, the athletes that won the championship, you're talking about the biggest athletic prize, the biggest athletic victory in all of the ancient Greek athletics. They don't get anything other than an olive. I have a whole podcast on this called the Olive Crown Wilts in a Day. The Olive Crown. So you win the Olympics. Fantastic. You trained your whole life just to win this one running race. Amazing. Guess what happens to your trophy? By tomorrow, it's done. It's broken. It naturally disintegrates. It's worthless. It doesn't mean anything. Get back to work. Get back to training. You won the championship one time. Cool. Come back and win it again. Win it again. Win it again. It's never good enough. It's not the outcome. It's the journey. It's the method. It's the process of becoming better. That's what matters. So the race to me is never about emptying out the physical tank. For what end? For what end? I don't learn anything about myself right now at this point of the juncture. And that's because I've already done that multiple times. I've already done that. There is a potential in the future that I'll need to do it again, but it's not where I'm at right now, and it's not where I need to be right now. And the process alerts me to this. The fact that this race is strung together with the wisdom and the meaning of another race, which is strung together with the wisdom and the meaning of another race, again, it keeps me on the journey. It keeps me, all right, the work is accomplished, and there is no resting in it. If I get a personal record, if I podium, I'm going to be tempted. Here, let's keep going to the Tao. This comes from chapter 9. Fullness and complacency and success, contrary to the Tao. This is verse 2. When the work is done and one's name is becoming distinguished, to withdraw into obscurity is the way of heaven. All right? So if I start to believe the goodness of myself based on the achievements and the accomplishments that I have, well, guess what? I am setting myself up for a fall. I am losing my humility. I am gaining hubris in the ancient Greek sense. I'm Icarus flying too close to the sun, and I'm about to get burned by ego. And that's another thing that people get mixed up with competition, is their egos get attached to the result. Therefore, they are defined by the result. Therefore, the result's the only thing that means anything and matters. And so it makes good sense then to break apart your body in order to get about the result, because then the result signifies who you are. But the result is hollow in the end because you're trying to rest in it. You're trying to allow it to be the definition. You're trying to keep that olive wreath preserved forever when it's supposed to be gone in a day. So the way you guard against this is, when the work is done and one's name is becoming distinguished, withdraw into obscurity. That is the way of heaven. Just looking for one more note here. And like, okay, I'm going to cut this off because I'll go forever, because the Tao just brings in so many amazing things. But this, I think, really is where I'm resting right now in terms of the meaning of the race and this inner battle between selfishness and selflessness that I'm trying to use the competition to get the appropriate balance. And I believe I'm narrowing in. I'm not there yet. As I said, I still have to figure out a way to get to this physical ruin inside of a competition as its own lesson. I will get there. I'm not there yet. Here's where I'm at, though. As I mentioned, the big takeaway for me this race is like, I'm at my best giving away myself to other people. And you would think, well, how can that work? How does that work inside a race where your performance is intimately linked up with you giving away your capability to perform for yourself because you're pouring into other people? How does that work? Well, the Tao is all about paradoxes. It's all about being a paradox respecter. And it literally, this excerpt is exactly what I just learned. It's exactly what I just learned. It's exactly what I just learned. I think I read this on Friday too. It's amazing how it all comes full circle. This is from chapter 7, Sheathing the Light. Chapter 7, verse 2 of the Tao. Therefore, the sage puts his own person last, and yet it is found in the foremost place. He treats his person as if it were foreign to him, and yet that person is preserved. So by me not focusing on myself and my results in a race, I actually guarantee better race results for myself. The sage puts his own person last and yet is found in the foremost place. So it seems to me that in competition, when I focus on myself, I'm aimed incorrectly. I'm not in competition for myself. That's just eminently clear from the signals that are just pouring into, through, and out of my body in these competitions. It's obvious to me. And this quote, I think, perfectly encapsulates exactly where I'm at in the journey. You know, I haven't been doing this very long. It was Zion 100 when this realization overcame me at mile 42 in the mile 30 some odd, whatever, in the desert. And I had to stop and turn around and walk the opposite direction on the trail because I started bawling uncontrollably. Because I recognized, like, me at my best is out here helping people. And whatever I need to do to continue to be out there helping people is what is going to generate the best within me in terms of body, in terms of mind, and in terms of spirit. And having a solo race where that was the overriding message as I was doing an incredibly difficult thing, it's exactly the kind of signal that I was looking for one way or the other. I didn't necessarily want that signal, but I wanted something strong to come out of the effort as it related to this balance between selfishness and selflessness. And I'm at peace with what I got. And I think my path is confirmed. I think my aim is true. But I guess I'll find out in just under 3 weeks when we go back to the desert for 50 miles with the team. And I'm going to bring lessons like this directly to them. Some people will be doing their very first ultramarathon. Some people will be doing their very first ultra out in the desert. Some people will be doing their very first point-to-point ultra. And I don't need to physically ruin myself in a race to give them the wisdom that they're going to need to race with an open heart, to bring about the best version of themselves, to transcend what they perceive are limitations inside of themselves, and to break through. I don't need to break my body to do that. That only proves something to the ego and to the weak minds out there who only see physical ruin as the height of athletic expression. And it's one of them. But it's not the only one. And with that, we will close off. Thank you so much for listening. Leave a 5-star review. Click the subscribe button. If you want to get in on some of this philosophizing, hit me up for coaching. If you just want to be surrounded by a group of people who talk like this and think like this and attack life like this, consider the temple and joining up with our group. I will see you in the next one. Peace and love, everybody.